What's up guys, it's Tanner with Build Not Bought, and today we're going to be building some cabinetry for some storage underneath our fireplace. If you've seen any pictures of our house, we've got a floating walnut bench, and after having a child and another one on the way, we're deciding we need some places to put various toys and everything so we can hide everything. First cut is always the tough one. It's a full 4x8 sheet of plywood, Baltic birch, nothing too fancy, but it is nice and finished, or nice and sanded and smooth, so just got to put a clear coat on it. Alright guys, I got all my plywood all cut out and ready to go, and now it's time to start assembling. And I'm going to use a Kreg jig, which is a jig that allows you to drill pocket holes really quickly and efficiently. And I'm going to punch 4 holes in each side. So here you can see I've got 4 on each, and then I'm going to clamp everything together and screw it together. If you've never used or heard of a Kreg jig, it's kind of the quick and dirty way to make cabinetry. I pretty much only use it for plywood, but it works really good, and it's hard to find a better method that you can do as quickly and efficiently. You just set it into place, and then there's this locking lever here, and it already knows the depth that you need to drill, and then you just have this fancy bit that comes with it. You adjust the collar to whatever thickness you're using. This is 3/4 inch plywood. Drill a hole, pop it open, and then just continue on. Just like that, in a matter of seconds, I've got 4 pocket holes drilled. Make these clamps where you can put it right into the pocket hole and clamp it to the bottom of the plywood. And this keeps everything from moving. Without any clamps, as you drive this screw in, this sheet here will shift that way, which you don't want because you'll get a little lip here on the end. So this helps hold it in place while you screw everything down. I have all my cabinets assembled, and now I'm just putting some edge banding on the faces of them. With plywood, you get kind of this ugly edge where you can see all the individual plies, and I just bought a roll of Baltic birch heat press, so there's like an adhesive that isn't sticky until you heat it up. It really is as simple as ironing it on. You have to cut, and you have to measure and cut everything, but essentially you just line everything up and start heating it up and applying a bunch of pressure, and after a few seconds you melt that adhesive on the bottom and it starts to adhere to the plywood itself.
Here's a little side-by-side of the edge banded material versus the raw plywood, and you can see how ugly these plies are, especially if there's any dark spots or pits in the plywood. It's a quick and easy way to make cabinets look a lot better. I picked up some of this highly figured, beautiful black walnut from Valley Hardwoods in Dilworth, Minnesota. I always go for lumber that has really unique figure in it, especially for personal projects. And I have this large bottom panel and then this top more narrow panel, and these two are going to get edge glued together to create the doors of my cabinetry. I'm doing the inside-outside method for joining these boards, which allows them to come together perfect.
I got my outside, so going outside of the Alright, so the idea is I've got 4 cabinets, and I want the grain to be continuous as much as they can be. So this is one panel that I've cut into 2, and then I'll have to cut into 4ths eventually, but I want this grain to continue all the way across. So I made a little note to myself to joint this edge. That way when I cut, I can put this up against the fence of the table saw, get a nice square cut in the middle where the 2 doors meet together. And then as you jump from the first cabinet to the second, that grain is just going to cross over all the way across. Now, I didn't have any walnut that was 16 feet long, so I have two separate panels. So this is the second one where the grain kind of flows continuously across, and I'll do the same thing.
And a quick pass through my trusty dusty drum sander, and these walnut panels are nice and smooth and, more importantly, flat. And here's what they look like. I've got the top and lower panel completely edge glued together. The shop dog Sully Boy's in here checking on me, making sure I'm doing everything right. And my cabinets are 18 inches tall. And what I'm going to do is have an 1/8 inch reveal around these cabinets. So I'm going to cut these panels at 17 3/4 of an inch, which will give me a 1/8 inch on the bottom and on the top. And this is exactly what I was going for. Seamless. How awesome is that? Now I'm just going to put one last finishing touch on these doors before I start adding the hardware to them. And I'm going to run my planer at a 45 across the edges on all sides. Just put a slight chamfer on everything. I think it's the minor details like this that make fine furniture really go the extra mile.
I'm using these Bloom soft close hinges. I've never used them before, and to be honest, they don't give you any instructions or anything, but I had this Kreg jig that I got from when I did my kitchen cabinets, and essentially you just clip this on, pre-drill this big hole, and then the two pilot holes here. So this is just a scrap sheet of plywood. I'm just going to see how they look, and if I can kind of dry fit just a scrap sheet, and then I'll start drilling to my panels. Alright guys, so I had to order some full overlay hinges. The ones that I currently had on hand weren't designed for this style of door. So I got these mounted onto a piece of plywood that is the exact height as the drawer doors themselves, or the cabinet doors themselves, okay? So I'm going to use this as my jig to mount these so that I'm not fumbling with a larger door. And just make sure it's the same exact height. The width doesn't matter. In fact, the more narrow you make it, the easier it is to get around with your drill. The next thing that you're going to need, and you can do it without this, but this really helps, is a self-centering. They call these blitz bits sometimes. So basically it has a drill bit inside of that little attachment, and it centers itself inside of these hinges. So when you push in, maybe you can see that bit pop out when I push in. It's going to be in the dead center of those holes. So when you go to attach this, you know that everything is exactly where it's supposed to be. I've got a little bit of a shim on the bottom here to get my reveal the same all the way around. We're going about 1/8 of an inch to 3/16 in that ballpark. And you simply just take your door, set it on that shim in the closed direction is what I prefer. And then you just reach around the back side, pre-drill all those holes, and then you can attach it and test it out. Then when I remove this, I've got my holes so that I can permanently attach this. These pieces actually just pop off of here, so I could go ahead and start installing all these pieces and then clip on the actual doors later, which is really cool. So I could just slap these on, line it up with my hole and attach it, and then when I'm ready to install the door, I just click it into that hinge. I went ahead and just checked the fitment on this before I go through all of my cabinets, and check it out. So these are full overlay hinges, and this is without any adjustments at all. Soft close is working perfect. My reveal on the top of the bottom and the bottom is the same, and I can adjust this reveal on the sides. Now, my goal is when I put all these cabinets together, to get that reveal as tight as I possibly can without this door binding with the one on this cabinet, if that makes sense. So I can move this in and out accordingly, but I really want to close that gap as much as I possibly can. Good morning, everybody. It's Christmas morning. I hope you guys all had a very Merry Christmas. If you procrastinate and make mistakes like I do, you're going to end up in the wood shop on Christmas morning scrambling to get something done. So all those cabinets are installed, the doors are on, everything's level. They look really nice. I'm happy with it. The last thing that I'm going to do is put the handles on them, and my plan is to make round handles that are textured, and when the doors close together, they come together to make that circle. My plan is to just use the base of my router. I drilled a hole in the bottom of it. I'm gonna shoot a screw down into that hole, into my walnut scrap wood here, and use that screw as the pivot point and just pivot around that screw and make a small circle. I hope it works. All right, so I scroll saw cut out these 3 just kind of rough circles. This one is the nice circle. Now I'm gonna use my flush trim bit in my router. The only issue is it's currently negative 20 degrees out, and I just don't know if my double-sided tape is gonna work. So fingers crossed I can stick these together, stack them up, and do a little bit of sketchy shit over here on the router. Who needs a router table, right?
So this is a die grinder, and I got this cordless one from DeWalt to add texturing to different projects, and it's a Kutzall sphere on the end of it, just an abrasive sphere. And I'm just going ahead and adding some texture to these. I've kind of fallen in love with adding texture to projects whenever I can. And I think adding it to these handles is going to look super awesome. Let me know what you think of these in the comments below. And finally, on to install day. So I just set up my laser so that the tops of all these handles would be about the same size, and then I would run a screw through the backside of the panel and then press my handle onto that screw to leave a little mark on the back of it, and then pre-drill into that. And when I'm ready, I can just tighten these right on and then adjust them so that they sit nice and flush when these doors close together. There's probably better ways to do this, but this was kind of a quick and dirty way, and it turned out really nice, so I'd recommend it.
Finishing touch, I'm just using some Bumbleshoots beeswax to finish these handles, mostly because it's completely natural, it doesn't smell, it actually smells really good, and I'm doing this inside my house, so it's gonna be kind of the finishing touch. You can see kind of a film on those right now, and I'll wipe those off.
Okay, let's practice.
But I'm gonna let it soak in overnight. One more to go.